We face a global problem, a major problem, if you will, in the world today. Some of you are familiar with it. I know Michelle was familiar with it, about fraud, identity theft, credit card fraud, things of that nature. You've probably experienced it firsthand yourselves. Many of you have been a victim. I've been a victim several times. I mean, it's not selective on who they target. It can be anybody of any stature. Happens every day to all sorts of people. Credit card fraud is a big concern, one of the biggest. It can cost billions of dollars. And so people are trying to constantly come up with new things to keep our transactions safe and secure. And then on the other hand, people are constantly trying to come up with ways to get around those systems and beat them, if you will. One of the latest bits of extra security of credit cards is the chip. Many of you probably already transferred to that method. Instead of swiping, you insert your card there and it reads it off a chip. I was reading an article the other day about a new process that takes us even a step further. The latest method to prevent you from being scammed on your credit card. Something that goes beyond the chip, but it's called the chip and sing. British banks, in fact, are first testing it out and developing this technology based on your tonal range, your voice. They're saying it's more secure than even a fingerprint. The article went on to say that fraud has fallen since this chip and pin system was implicated, but it's still a problem. Transactions have been suffering, so they're looking for alternative ways. So what they're doing is they're putting microphones on ATM machines, microphones on gas pumps, microphones on the little readers at the checkout line, and instead of when you're in Publix, instead of they're going to say credit or debit, they're going to say, what song are you going to sing for us? The end of the article gave it away, because this new system is entitled Lyrical Input Elocution System, which is an acronym for lies. In fact, this article came out last year on April Fool's Day. April Fool's Day being Saturday, I think it is, so we're probably going to be seeing a lot of stories pop up that are similar to this, trying to get your attention, saying, they can't do that. They hook you in, and then at the end you realize it was a scam. But it may be kind of fun to have a system like that. You can belt out my way, when you're buying your chicken or something. That was funny in my head. Our text this morning can be looked at, in fact, as one of those type of stories. In fact, it could have been written as an April Fool's Day prank. The charm that is of an April Fool is to draw people in, to get them hooked. So they'll read the whole story and then realize at the end, hopefully they'll realize that it was a prank. But it can't be so ridiculous that no one will believe it from the beginning. There has to be a hook, something that grabs your attention and draws you in. So this text that we read this morning is a great text for this time of year, this Sunday that's close to April Fool's Day. In fact, it's a great text for Lent in general, which we're in the middle of the Lenten season. This is a pivotal moment in the Gospel of John, as it is as well in the season of Lent. In the first 10 chapters of John, he's telling us about the life and the teaching of Jesus. And in the latter chapters, he's teaching us about the passion and resurrection. At the beginning of John's Gospel comes the well-known prologue. We all know what that is. And at the end comes an epilogue in the 21st chapter. In between those themes comes this story right in the middle. A rather odd-looking story about two Greeks who want to see Jesus. In fact, it's a turning point. I think maybe for the ones that first heard this story, for the first hearers, it probably sounded like a joke, an April Fool, if you will, when Jesus explained what was going to happen. Because on several occasions, Jesus tells us throughout the New Testament that the time isn't right, that my hour hasn't come, not yet. He says it to his mother. He says it to the Samaritan woman. He avoids arrest time and time again because he kept saying, not now, not now. Wait, hold on. The time's not now. Not now. The hour has not come. So during all this, the disciples must have been thinking, well, when? When is going to be the right time? What are we waiting for? Perhaps during conflicts with the authorities, with the Pharisees, or perhaps during one of his miracles, or perhaps during one of his great teachings, the disciples were thinking, okay, this has got to be it. This is so good. The hour's now. This is it. It's got to be. But that moment passed. There were always the ones who thought they knew when the hour was come, but they were wrong. So at last, in this chapter, in chapter 12, Jesus says, now is the time, the hour has come. So the disciples were excited. They said, great, we're ready. We're ready. Let's go to war. Let's go to battle. Let's see something great. What has caused this to be the hour? What great thing has caused it? What has caused it is not a great miracle in the Bible. What has caused it was not one of the great controversies that he had with the Pharisees. What has caused it was not some deeply meaningful spiritual moment that he had in his teaching or his quiet time with his disciples. What caused it was a couple of Greeks who said, we want to see Jesus. I love that. We want to see Jesus. Philip tells Andrew, and Andrew tells Jesus. Kind of like that bank manager saying, hold on, let me go get my manager. Excuse me, sir, there's a couple of guys out here that want to see you. In response, Jesus says, now is the time. The hour has come. Now, a couple of guys come and say, we want to see Jesus. It must have seemed like a joke. What an anti-climax. This can't be it. Surely not. So what was it about these two men that came to see Jesus that prompted him to say, now is the time? The rest of John's Gospel unfolds after the stories of Bethany and Jesus becoming anointed and signs of his death and signs of new life and resurrection. Soon, in a couple of weeks, we'll be approaching Palm Sunday, and then we'll enter into the events of Holy Week. And in the lead up to this passage, there are two pivotal things that John sees for Jesus saying, now is the time. Now is the hour. Actually, this passage follows Palm Sunday and the events when Jesus rejects any kind of grand entry, triumphal entry into Jerusalem to overthrow the authorities, which was the expectation of most people at the time. They wanted him to go in there on fire and just do all kinds of things and perform many miracles and overthrow people and just have this battle. But that's not what he did, as we know. So in a very visual way, in fact, Jesus seems to do the opposite. He seems to humiliate himself. He destroys that view by not riding in on a great military chariot, but, as we know, on the back of a donkey. It was the Greeks. It was the Greeks, not the Jews, the Gentiles, who wanted to see Jesus. There's a note of universalism. Suddenly, the non-Jews, not the Jewish authorities, not the disciples, but the world, which we have seen so little up to this point, the outside world. And now is the time they want to see Jesus. They weren't Jews. They weren't converts to Judaism. They were simply asking a question. And as we know through our studies, Greeks loved a good debate, a good argument. We see that from the book of Acts. Perhaps these two men had heard of Jesus. They knew who he was. Even perhaps they had heard him preach. Perhaps they had seen him perform some great miracle. And in their curiosity, it drove them to say, we want to see this man for ourselves. We want to see Jesus. And it seems at that time when Jesus himself recognizes the hour had come. He knew. Because he recognized a thirst, a hunger, a curiosity among non-Jewish people, among the world. He says, now is the moment for the Son of Man to be glorified. When the authorities see the effect of Palm Sunday events, they say that great line with exasperation, what are we going to do now? Because the whole world is after him. And they say that as he's riding on a donkey. But this idea of universalism is not very popular among many people. Many Christians, that is, probably don't like it because they would rather see the heavenly places. They would rather see the special places. They would rather hear the promises of God. They would rather have the chosen few of the elect, if you will, being the ones that benefit from this. Somehow they do not like the idea that God's purpose is being the Lamb of God, that he took the sins away from the whole world, all the world. There are some that may say, well, let me tell you who I think is deserving and not deserving. So it was when these Greeks came inquiring about Jesus that he said, the time has come. The time has come. And he did it, again, by riding on a donkey. The universalism of the sacrifice of Jesus and the humility of those who followed triggered that journey to start. And just in case they thought that entry into Jerusalem was going to take them back to their own thoughts of going to battle, right at the end of the passage, John says, Jesus told them to tell them the kind of death he was going to die. That's the theme that we have throughout Lent, starting with Transfiguration. Introducing the idea of death and suffering. And if you remember, everything was going fine with the disciples until this. Until Jesus says, I think it's time now that I tell you the whole story. I tell you what's going on. So Jesus tells Peter that he needs to suffer and die. And Peter can't cope with that. He doesn't like the idea of suffering. He doesn't like the idea of those who follow Christ to be those who will suffer. And that's what prompted him to say, get behind me, Satan, if you remember. Not recognizing that part of the Christian life is to suffer. And from there they moved to the Mount of Transfiguration. The voice of God was heard. It's addressed to his disciples, this is my beloved. And as this journey continues, the disciples are becoming more and more aware, in a way perhaps they probably can't understand, that suffering is part of life. Suffering is part of the journey. It does not deny God's existence. It does not deny God's presence. Because God in Christ also suffered. And that's the turning point of that idea of suffering. Not being self-destructive and self-pity. For out of it comes something of beauty and of worth. Then for the benefit of his listeners, Jesus uses another agricultural analogy, talking about the wheat. That it must die in order to live, to rise again. Perhaps just when the disciples were getting most depressed about this idea of suffering, when things seem to be coming at the worst, comes Easter. Out of death comes a new life. Out of self-sacrifice comes a life devoted to others. For unless a seed dies and rises again, there will be no resurrection. Unless we take that and apply it to our own lives, unless we die in our own lives to sin and righteousness or selfishness and arrogance and pride, we miss out on that chance to live eternally even now. So two men, two Greeks, two non-Jews came and said, we want to see Jesus. And that acknowledgement, if not of faith, but at least of curiosity. It was a thirst. It was a hunger for the world to see Jesus for themselves. And he knew that the time had come, that it was the hour. Today we live in a world where that hunger is still evident. That hunger still exists. Now for the Greeks, in this sense, you can substitute anybody that's not in the church, right? Do not think that those who have a hunger and a thirst for righteousness and spirituality are only those that are here this morning, that only those who come and sit in a church pew. That's not the case. For there are millions of Greeks, if you will, of our own day who are saying, we'd like to see Jesus. We want to see Jesus. And we don't know what it'll mean. We do not know what it will say to us. We don't know what difference it may make, but they have at least made the first step. They said to Philip, we would like to see Jesus. And that's a reminder to the church that what we say, what we do as a church, it must not prevent others from seeing Jesus for themselves. We don't ask people to come and marvel at our cleverness, if you will, at our pretensions. We don't ask people to come and be impressed by our traditions. And I hope that if and when they do come, they will see that same humility that Jesus showed in his people. As they saw his glory of his glory was measured not by the measure of the world, by the ridiculous sight of him on the back of that donkey with his feet dragging the ground. There are Greeks that say to us today, we want to see Jesus. And I hope that when they see something of him in his humility, his humbleness of his people, and the sacrificial nature of their lives. And when I say they and their, of course, that means you and me. Let us pray. Father God, again, we do thank you for this day. Father, we thank you for this message you've given to us this morning. Reminding us that there's still a hunger, there's still a thirst for those in this world, Father, that may not be Christians, but they still want to see you. They want to know you. They want to be with you. Father, give us the strength and the courage and the wisdom, the stamina to show them the way. That when they see us, they will see that humbleness that you have in your people. That we can lead and guide those who are thirsty and hungry for your word to receive it. And Father, we just pray that the Holy Spirit will take it from there. Father, as we leave this place, just go with us in every step. May you be with us in all that we do. For us in Christ's name we pray.